let's talk. Hello, I'm Sally Gibney. Welcome to Let's Talk for the last time. I'm going to turn it over to Huss.
What we're going to do is Sally's going to be leaving us, and she's going to be starting a new adventure. And what we thought we'd do is just spend a little time talking to Sally, going through the years she's been here, and various stuff like that. Most of you may have noticed that right at the start, there was a picture of a young woman. A young woman that I've never met, I've never seen. And I thought we'd just spend a moment. And Sally, tell me, who was that woman? What was she doing? What were her dreams?
Oh, well, that was Sally Dantzler. And Sally Dantzler was a nurse.
Wait, give me the middle name.
Oh, Sally Pickens Dantzler. And I had just graduated from nursing school. And
go even further back.
Oh.
So where'd you grow up?
Oh, well, I grew up in Huntington Bay.
Huntington Bay what?
Long Island.
You're a Long Island girl.
I am.
Were you rich?
Well, we had a wonderful home, and we lived on the water, which was absolutely great. So we could swim every single day. And
nice.
I had I have three sisters and two brothers. And
busy mom and dad.
Oh yeah, and my dad passed away when I was 12. So my mother was left with 6 children. The oldest one 14, and the youngest one 2. And
when your dad died, did they stay in the house, or were they?
Oh, we did. We were
to
fortunate
move?
that we could stay where we were.
Got it.
So we were. That was very fortunate. We really had a very close family. My mother's siblings were very close, and sadly, we had 3 uncles who passed away one after another. So here were all these children without fathers. So they would all come and spend summers at our house, and every holiday was at our house. So we had all these wonderful times together. And to this day, we're still an incredibly close-knit family.
So you were a good kid.
Yeah. Until, well.
Like 16? 16 all
no,
went to hell?
No, I was still good then. No, it was when I went to nursing school that it all broke loose. And after that.
What age was that?
I was, I guess, 17 when I went to nursing school. I was young.
How'd you know you wanted to be a nurse?
Actually, I wanted to be a lawyer. But my uncle was an attorney, and he said at that time, remember, this was the late 50s.
Oh, no,
and he said,
here it comes.
No, he said, it's too hard for a girl right now. And he said, I don't want you to have to go through that. He said, someday it will be fine, but not yet. So he said, do something else. And then it was be a nurse, be a teacher, be a secretary.
Right, there weren't many choices.
Yeah, those were the choices. So I decided I'd be a nurse. And I loved being a nurse. But deep down, I always wish I had at least given it a shot. Ask Bob. He knows about all my talents.
Let's go ahead and do it. Sally,
okay.
ready?
Okay. All right. Audrey Koloff, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sally. It's a pleasure.
It's so much fun.
It
now,
is fun.
Amy, Ellen, start all over again. Amy.
Would you like
keep
to
going? I'm like, she looks at me like, huh? Yeah.
Was there ever any doubt? You go, I really hate nursing. I'm out of here.
No, I loved it. I really did. And
hit.
St. Vincent's was a fabulous hospital. The whole focus was on the patient, which was the way I felt.
Right.
We had crazy, crazy patients. We had the Bowery, the Docks, Greenwich Village. 14th Street was a very Hispanic population. So it was a broad spectrum of people. A lot of things. I was very naive and very young, and so I learned fast.
Did you ever have a doubt if you could do it?
You just did it. St. Vincent's, we worked 8 hours a day and went to school 8 hours a day. So we had 16-hour days.
Yeah, so there was
no time in between to
think
think about
not an
that.
option.
Yeah.
I matter.
You matter.
We all matter.
That in the beginning.
Oh, yes.
So that's not a normal nursing shot,
No.
so that's a headshot.
It's a headshot. Well, when I was working in the emergency room, one of my patients was a woman from the House of Revlon. And she said to me, she said, I love you. I love your hair. You're beautiful. Will you model for us? And I said, and she said, and you can come and we'll work with your hair and you can model in our shows and, all of this thing. So I went home and I said to my mom, what would you think if I went to the House of Revlon and they'll probably change the color of my hair a little bit, do different things. And she said, as long as you don't look cheap or common, that's fine. So I said, of course. So I did. I went to the House of Revlon, and there were all, in the chairs were all of these models and actresses and people that I recognized from magazines or from TV or whatever. And what they would do is they would go to would model in these shows, and then the House of Revlon would maintain their hair. So they never had to worry about having their roots done or haircuts or anything like that. They would do that because they were, modeling in the shows.
Did you have to constantly keep your hair looking good?
Oh, yeah. Well, what happened was the first time this Frenchman came up, and he came behind me and he stuck his hands in my hair and he went, "Oh my God, she's a virgin!" And I went, "Oh my God, how does he know?" But what he meant was that my hair had never been bleached. So anyway, they framed it. I started with framing, and that was going to be the big deal at that time. And then it just went on, and they did all colors. I was platinum blonde. I was peach blonde. I was red. I was whatever.
Again, you not intimidated at all?
No, it was kind of fun. I loved it. It was really,
mean,
really
when
great.
you
But in the
marched into that
meantime, I was
room?
still working. I was
Yeah.
still working as a nurse because this was kind of my fun thing to do. But
So you just dealt with it. You weren't intimidated. You walked into that room. You saw
No,
those
it was-
models.
yeah,
you went,
and I thought-
I belong here.
well, it
Get
was
the
just
hell out
like,
of my
well,
way.
why not? Why not? It wasn't. I was a little nervous when I walked in and I saw these beautiful women because I was young.
Yeah. How old?
I was 20.
You were 20.
Yeah.
This was a big.
Yeah.
Did you entertain plans of I'm out of here on nursing? Or
No. I knew that there was the practical side of me that knew I had to have a salary and I had to have benefits
Right.
and I had to have all those things. So they didn't really pay you. Your pay
Oh.
was having them maintain your hair. So
Oh,
you didn't get
really?
paid for being in the shows. It was really just a lark, It was kind of and for these models, it was great because,
Right.
that was always a big expense for them. But for me, it was just a lark. It was,
So there was one day when you were sitting in that chair going, this is the last really good hairdo I'm going to have.
I'm gonna
for a
ever
long
have.
time." I'm kind of curious how you got to Vermont.
Oh, well, then I was nursing, and then I met Bob. I would be
Bob, for
from the
those who don't
emergency
know.
room. From the emergency room, I went into
Bob was your pimp, right?
Yes.
Well, who's
Oh,
Bob?
yeah.
Who's
Well,
Bob?
my honey.
Oh, okay,
yes.
okay.
No, but
I know that, but they don't
but
know
with
that.
case management, my insurance company worked very closely with a school for physically disabled children,
Yep.
and Bob was a teacher there, and so our company would bring the children for an overnight to Philadelphia, and they asked me if I would be the nurse for this. And I was going down to home office anyway, so I said, "Oh, sure, I''ll do it." And they said, "No, wait till you meet this guy, Bob Givney. He's really, really neat. He's good looking, he's charming, everybody loves him, the girls love him." And I thought, I'm dating a lawyer and a doctor, and I have no intentions of marrying a teacher.
I hear mom speaking to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember I had a long day at home office, and I went to the hotel. It was the Ben Franklin Hotel, and I saw him coming up the stairs, and I looked at him. I thought, not bad, But then I was tired, so they were all going for a drink, and I went to bed. But I watched him, and he was so good with these children. I mean, he was just absolutely kind and fun and wonderful. So he did make an impression on me. And then he arranged for me to ride home with him in the van because he wanted to find out if I could hold an intelligent conversation, and he wanted to be sure I didn't smoke. And that was the start of it. And then, we dated for a while and got married. And so that was it. And then, life happened. We have two wonderful, wonderful children who are
Now we're
absolutely
talking
fabulous.
about, so you met Bob 22s, 20s?
Oh, no, I was about 28 when I met Bob.
28,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because I was doing my thing,
Right.
for a long
So you're also beginning to think about, it sounds like you always wanted a family.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
and
that must have been on your mind.
well, I had been very ill early on. I had dermatomyositis, which is like lupus. And I was really in bed for a year, literally. I mean, I was really sick and had lots of medication. And I knew that I would never be able to have children.
Okay.
So, and Bob knew that too. And he was there through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And my other friends kind of faded away. And he stuck with it the whole time. And I thought, he's a keeper. And so we always wanted to adopt.
Yeah.
And so we were very fortunate to be able to adopt two children, two fabulous children. And they were both babies. when we got them. So
you knew you
they're
could make it happen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then Vermont appeared on the horizon.
Well, he had just finished up. He had started a hospice, a pediatric hospice on Long Island, and had done a couple of other things. And then he was offered a job at Green Mountain College in development. And so we thought, why not? We had been coming up to Vermont. We had friends, the Ihasses, who lived in Danby, and they were friends of ours on Long Island. So we were coming up for weekends and holidays and things like that. So we always liked Vermont, but we never really thought of living in Vermont. But then when he was offered this position, we were like, well, why not? Let's do it.
One of the things I'd like to talk about is, before we get into your shows, I'm just curious, when you got to Vermont, so you had kids in tow when you got to Vermont, right?
Matt was going into his junior year at Burton.
Right.
Sally Ann was in college at that time.
And there's always that moment where you go, so am I glad I'm here?
It was tough in the beginning because
what
we didn't
way?
know anyone.
Right.
And it wasn't, I was coming from the town where I had grown up. I knew everyone. I was on a lot of boards and I was involved in a lot of things. And I was hoping that would happen here. But it doesn't happen that way. At least I didn't find it
Takes a
happen that way in
while.
Vermont. You really have to get to know people. People have to get to know you. Once they do, they're your friend for life. But it isn't one of those quick automatic things. You have to sort of work your way in.
Do you think they're checking to see if you're really going to stay?
I think they were, and I think they were checking to see, and this is what a Vermonter said to me. So many people come to Vermont, and they love Vermont, but they want to change Vermont. And they wanted to see, are you going to fit in and be part of who we are, or do you want to be one of those people who come and want to change everything?
Are you going to be a problem at town meetings, Sally?
Not me. Relationship.
Was there a moment when you said, okay, this
I've
is
had
going to
it.
work? No. Well, that too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well there was, because Bob's position was eliminated at Green Mountain College, and he got a job back in Brooklyn, New York. So
Oh,
he was
God.
commuting back to Brooklyn, and I was here in Vermont. So at that time, I was thinking, was this such a good idea?
I want to move from that to this world.
How
How
this
the
happened?
hell did you get to this world?
Well, back then when Bob was commuting, and I was there by myself on Danby Mountain Road and whatever, and I was still doing case management, and I had 110 patients, and it was really, really getting difficult. And I really went through a difficult time. I sort of crashed. And going through that, I realized the importance of taking care of ourselves and, to celebrate ourselves and celebrate each other and to laugh and have fun and to reach out and all these things that are so important. So I wrote a program called Celebrate Ourselves, to talk to women about taking care of themselves and how having gone through this, and there's so many people who have gone through it, and it was that kind of a thing. Okay. So Pam Gilbert was volunteering at GNAT TV.
I think I have an example of her laugh I may add to the show.
Well, I'm sure. I hope you do, because she has the best laugh in the whole world. And I was meeting someone for coffee, and I had my coat on, and the person called and said she couldn't make it. So when I hung the phone up, it rang again, and it was Pam saying, "Get over here to GNAT TV." And I didn't even know there was a cable station in
And this was the
Manchester.
old
One up on Lincoln Avenue.
Up on Lincoln Avenue.
So I went down, and here she is behind this camera, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she said, "You have to meet Tony, and you have to tell her about your program." So I did, and I told Tony, and she said, "Well, why don't you perform it, have a group of women come in for lunch and do the show?" And so I did. After that, Tony said, "You should do a show." And I said, "Me?" Hello, and welcome to Celebrate Ourselves. This is an especially wonderful show. Do you know why? This is the anniversary of our first show. Can you imagine? We've been here for 1 year. I can't believe it. They said it wouldn't last, and here we are. And I first would like to thank my crew. If I didn't have the most wonderful crew in the whole wide world, we wouldn't have kept trucking. I'd like to thank Mr. Walt Gilbert, Mr. Bob Gibney, my honey, and also Mr. Art Gilbert. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here with me. Now, guess what? A week from tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Can you believe it? You know, I always thought that as I got older, things would slow down and days would go by much slower, but they don't. They just seem to fly by. And then you know what happens
I
after
was
Thanksgiving.
gonna
Do this, and then I would get women in 3 different age groups. So there was a real young woman, and then there was a woman who was a little bit older who had young children, and then there was someone in my age group. And I was going to ask, I was planning to ask them what to do. Now, through the show, there were times when I went totally blank. I mean, my head, I'm like,
don't you love that?
Oh, and I thought, afterwards, I thought, I have made a total fool of myself in front of the whole town.
Right.
This is, we're going to have to pack up and leave. And it wasn't horrible. It wasn't good, but it wasn't horrible. Right. And then Tony said, you should keep doing this. So it progressed, right. And then I would get guests. I would meet people, and John Bottoms was on, Kathy Metzger, all these different people.
But that moment, back up just a little bit, that moment where you go blank, it's a fascinating thing, isn't it?
Oh,
because most people don't realize that just to keep talking and to maintain a conversation and to think and to react, you can literally be there in the show, and it's happened to me, and you just have no idea what anyone just said.
Yeah, you don't know what they said, and you don't know what you're going to say.
That's right.
It's like, oh, this is bad.
And you wonder if your face just goes dazed.
Exactly.
And you just kind of list to one side.
And then well, I've had moments even in not so long ago where I say, here's my very dear friend.
In fact, I'm going to show a few of those.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I am. I found some stuff for you.
They were fun. Yeah. So anyway, so that's how that progressed. So then the Celebrate Ourselves. And it was, when I look back on them, they were, very not professional. They were very amateurish. But they were fun. And
but you came back.
It was fun. And then I started thinking about it and thinking about all the wonderful people in the community and the different things and what we could share. How we could share what's going on in the community.
So the core concept of that first show.
The first one was taking care of yourself.
Called Celebrate Ourselves.
Yeah. It was celebrating ourselves and each other, helping people take care of themselves or how they were.
Because in a way you were taking care of yourself.
Right.
Because it was that time period you're talking about.
Yeah. This was following that.
And that went for, one of the clips we're going to show next is a clip from roughly 2009, where the title of your show changes to The Good News Show. So we'll watch that clip.
Okay. Hello, I'm Sally Gibney. Welcome to The Good News Show. The Good News Show, that's right. There's so much good news out there. Lately, all we've been hearing is this gloom and doom, whatever you read, whatever you hear. But I'm here to tell you that there's lots of good news out here. These are challenging times. There's no doubt about it. But during challenging times, we have the opportunity to come together and to reach out to each other. There are so many people out there who are doing just that, reaching out to each other with really, really wonderful acts of caring. So we need to hear about that. This show is presented by the You Are Never Alone Foundation, a 501c3 Vermont grassroots organization that sponsors caring from one person to another. You may know our little caring coins with their message, "You are never alone." These caring coins are reminders of caring connection. They started with a dream. That's right, a dream. Believe me, I would never.
You changed the title to The Good News Show. And why did you change it from Celebrate Ourselves to The Good News Show?
Because the Celebrate Ourselves was limiting. I felt it was very limiting in that it was difficult to include some of the other things that were going on in the community under that title.
Okay.
And I knew that there was so much going on. There were so many wonderful things happening that I wanted to be able to share the good news, let people, and also things were getting kind of difficult. I mean,
it's 2009, right?
That was a difficult time. There were so I felt that, and all you heard on the news and everything else were all these bad news and things that weren't good. But I knew there was so much going on that was so wonderful, and we needed to share that with people to kind of give them a sense that we're okay.
And then you moved. I think it looks like around 2012, 2011, 2012. Sounds like you decided to go from Good News to a show called Caring Connections.
Hello. Welcome to Caring Connections. I'm Sally Gibney, and I'm so glad to be back here at GNAT TV in our new digs on 7A in Sunderland with Tammy Riley, our new executive director, and of course Elliot and Haas. Caring is inside of each one of us. You know, it's how we act, how we treat each other, and how we treat ourselves, and how we treat our environment. Caring Connections is going to be about highlighting all different kinds of caring connections. Today, our very first show is going to be a very, very special caring connection. It's the caring connections between grandparents and grandchildren. And I am so thrilled to have here today. And that was after I had started my foundation, the You Are Never Alone Foundation. And that was about caring and making connections with each other and different people. And
Why did you start that foundation?
Oh, it all started, that's going way back to where I had the dream about the little wooden coin, the angel coin.
Tell people that. I'm not sure.
Well, one night I had a dream, and in the dream I was holding a wooden coin. And the coin had an angel and the words "You're never alone" on it.
That's why your coin looks like that.
And I woke up and I looked for the coin. I looked all over. I looked on the floor under my pillow, couldn't find it. And I realized that it was a dream. And I thought, wow, what's this about? And then I thought the message was such a good message, and I kind of forgot about it. And, it kept coming back. You've got to do this. You've got to do it. So this is another long story. So I asked a friend, Ron Crawford, who's an actor who does the one-man Mark Twain show, and he's also a fabulous artist, to draw the angel, because I didn't want it to be a religious angel. I just wanted it to be free-flowing. And he did that. And then I found a man up north who could burn the coin, the angel on the coin. It had to be wood, and it had to be made in Vermont. Those were two specifics. Yep. So he thought I was crazy. I told him they were going to go around the world, and he just looked at me and rolled his eyes. But he made 100, and then it progressed. The first time I used it, I put it on my mother. Then had developed Alzheimer's and didn't know us and was frightened. And I put one on each of the side rails of her bed, and she would look at it and smile. So I knew there was something to it, and that's another story for another time. But the coins continue to be shared. We did I Matter, You Matter around the world, and 175,000 have gone around the world.
That's pretty good.
Which is pretty
cool. And the core concept of that whole foundation was to? It
was caring. It was sharing the caring and making a caring connection with yourself and with each other.
Right. Which we could really use in these times.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And is that foundation still going, or is
No, the foundation, I dissolved the foundation because when Bob became ill and was diagnosed with ALS, and I was his primary caregiver, and it was real, I couldn't continue. And my board was, people were going in different directions, and I just didn't have the energy or the time
Felt like it was a time for
change. So it was time to close it out. But the coins continue.
Yeah, the coins are still out there.
The Caring Connection. You can go to the website and see.
It's still.
They're not going to stop.
They're not going to stop. They're going to be there. We're going to bury you with them.
Absolutely.
And then it goes into, from Caring Connections, you shifted into a show called Let's Talk.
Yeah. I think, there's a time for everything. And I think we had really kind of run the gamut with the Caring Connections. I mean, we weren't going to stop thinking about it, but we wanted to do something fresh and new,
Right.
And you and I talked about the possibility of having an audience show.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we did.
And we thought this would be pretty cool. Let's try and do that. So we extended the show to an hour, and we invited audiences, and then we'd have really neat guests.
The show is a lot of work. I want you to know that.
I know that. And you never let me forget that either.
The set up the stage, 45 chairs. Oh my God.
Terrible. Out there for joining us. This is our very first Let's Talk show, and we have an audience. Oh, I'm so excited. My guest today is Chelsea Ingram, Miss Vermont 2012. Welcome, Chelsea. Thank you. Hi, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, God. Thank God for Mark. Look what he created for me. This man is a genius.
Right,
This is the most beautiful set.
Tell us, so what happened? So you went through a couple of sets, right? You tried a couple of different sets.
Right.
You tried the audience.
Right.
Eventually you bagged the audience.
Oh, well, we did that because what happened is we're in Vermont and the weather can be nasty. And, you have a show planned, you have a guest here, or maybe the guest doesn't even show up. But then you have 2 or 3 people sitting there. And that's a little bit ridiculous. You can't do that. Did you know that Oprah, when she first started her show, she would go out in the streets of Chicago with donuts and coffee and say, come on in and be in my audience. But that didn't work here. I
remember in LA, in Man's Chinese Theater, they were always trying to get people shows. They would actually haul a bus in and say, we'll drive you there, we'll drive you back.
Please.
It is so much work.
It was really work. So, but it was fun and it worked. It was good. It was
a good experience.
It was. If any of you have ideas for the show, let me know. Because it's fun and sometimes it's coming up with ideas. We did an Alzheimer's show.
Sally hates to interrupt, but whenever you're ready, we do have a show.
I'll tell you. Oh, okay. All right. I hear you, Pam. All right. We're back. And now I would like to introduce...
Valerie Miner.
No, it's such a beautiful, beautiful set. And I would be happy for someone else to take it over. And people have been asking, who's going to do the show? Who's going to be, I think it would be fun. All of you out there, if you want to come down and do this, it's such a.
Though before you mention this set to other people, we should ask Mark if it's.
If he'll pass it on.
He may be going in the back. Last thing I want to do is set this damn thing up again. Thanks,
I did it for
Sally.
Sally, but I'm not going to continue.
I was happy she was going.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We should ask Mark first.
We should ask him.
But it is absolutely
great.
fabulous. Yeah.
This is a we go all the way back to 2005 with you.
Right.
And it's 2018 now. You have. I sort of asked you if you have an idea of how many shows you've done altogether. You said
at least 150.
150 shows. I think you are one of the longest running independent producers GNAT ever had.
Only because you guys have been so wonderful to me.
Let me, I've been teaching.
And here I'd come in and out and they're like, oh no, here she comes. What's next?
Yeah, you started bribing us with donuts. We said, come on. And cookies. Don't forget the cookies.
Bagels.
Well, let me ask you this. So I've taught a lot of people to do shows here. And what we find in access shows is because there's no money involved, that a lot of people come and do shows for various reasons, usually reasons that don't stick. They think, they have a job where they think maybe the show will help get sales up, or they want to do something, they're bored, or they're pissed off at something, so they want to start, rant about something for a while. And eventually all those reasons sort of fade away. So having someone like you, and this is why it's one of the major reasons we're going to miss you besides your personality, is because you keep showing up. You keep producing material.
She's here again.
That's half of what life is.
Oh my gosh.
Showing up. And you do.
Yeah.
I mean, you showed up now for, I want to say, how many years?
13 years.
13 years, 150 shows.
Yeah.
It's a huge body of work. The thing is that even in the TV industry, there's people that do not even have the so-called professionals, this extent, this body of work. I mean, it's incredible. Why?
Because I loved it. But most of all, first of all, it's the caring connection is so important to me. Reaching out and sharing the message and sharing people and their talent and their what they do and who they are. Because there's so much good out there, and we lose sight of that. And that's what makes me. My shows are about my guests. They're not about me. It doesn't matter. People ask me if I get nervous. I never get nervous because I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about them. And I talk with them ahead of time so I get to know them and I can get these really neat things about them and get them to share about themselves. The other thing is all of you here. I mean, you are the most special group of people. You're my family. You know, that's going to be one of the hardest things leaving Vermont, is leaving you guys, because we are family. And, you know, through the ups and downs and whatever, you guys are here. And you're here to do whatever people need to do whatever they have to do. And that is something that you don't find.
Right.
The dedication here is unbelievable, and the love and the caring.
Can I say one of the most amazing things I feel about you? You have this gift of making people feel like they've known you for so many years. I mean, really known you. When you're next to you, it's just total comfort.
Oh, that's sweet.
You don't feel like, I don't know how to explain it more than that. It feels like sometimes you think, wow, maybe I knew this person in a former life. I mean, it's just amazing how comfortable you make people feel next to you.
Oh, my little grandson said to me the other day, he says, Grammy, how many new friends are you going to make today? I said, I don't know, Alan. And then Matt and Kim say to little Wes, who's 3, they say, now, Wes, never talk to strangers unless you're with Grammy.
Yeah. So let's talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
everything's about to change.
yeah,
All your patterns. Every morning when you used to wake up for the last 20 years, it was about this or about that. The roads you drove.
Everything. And as I think about that,
Even the weather.
But I was driving, you know, I love Vermont. You know, we've been here 21 years.
Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful run. It really has. And when Bob became ill, we put our house on the market and we moved to Equinox Village because he was falling. We couldn't stay in our home. We weren't able to do that. It was impossible. But he wanted to be home. He wanted to be able to have the children. He wanted the grandchildren, and he wanted to be at home. And the village offered us that. It was a place where we could go. Right. It was adapted. It worked for us. And he did get his wish. And so we were able to, you know, the kids came every weekend. The grandchildren were on the bed with them, and it really worked. But now that he's gone,
it comes back to you.
Yeah. And I want to be closer to the kids. The grandchildren are 3, 6, and 9, and their lives are filling up, and they've got all these activities.
They're going to grow up so fast.
Oh, yeah. And it's 4 hours each way for both of them.
Can't waste that time.
So, 8 hours in the car, either whether I'm driving it or they're driving it, and that's time we could be together. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I didn't know where to go, and I was talking with Father Tom from St. Paul's, and he said, you're not going to stick around here too long. And at the time, I wasn't thinking of moving. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, no, you're going to want to be near the kids. And I said, well, yeah. And I said, well, where would I go? And he said, Providence. I said, Providence? And he said, yeah, it's halfway between the 2 kids. And it's on the water.
Oh, yes.
Which, is
excellent
another thing.
Plan.
And it's so funny because, so I started looking at Providence, and I looked up with sailing, because we were sailors, and Bob was a wonderful sailor, and he wanted to start a program for underprivileged kids, teaching them how to sail, because he thought that would give them so many different things. And isn't there a program there, a 501c3, teaching underprivileged kids how to sail?
So you may become part of that.
And I met with the director.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already in action.
Yeah, and I said to him, and it was like I was talking to Bob, because he was so much like, the ideas was so similar. Yeah. So I think this is a place that Bob would have loved to go, and be. So he's coming with me.
And you realize that we're all going to stay at your house now.
Of course. Well, it's not a house. It's another adult community. Matthew said to me, Mom, you're not going from the frying pan into the fire, are you? And I said, but no, but absolutely. How
many can you fit, Sally? Let's get down to brass tacks.
As many as want to get here.
Okay, 15?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Floor at this place, as long as you bring a sleeping bag.
Okay.
No, it'll be, it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss here. You guys, I'm not even going to talk to you about it because I'll just start to cry. Mm-hmm. But it's time. It's time for a new chapter. It's been wonderful to know you. I love you. Even
we gotta close this.
I know. We got overtime, I bet.
I bet. So why don't we do this, Sally? Would you close out your last show at GNAT TV? Say goodbye to your fans out there and
my friends.
And your friends and
all these wonderful people. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
The camera, number 1, is yours.
Well, I guess this is it. I just want to say thank you so much to all of you out there. You've been wonderful, wonderful. I love those of you who would come up to me and say, good show, not so good. Next time. It's been absolutely wonderful. I love Vermont and I love all of you. And especially love my friends here at GNAT. They are my family. So until next time, keep talking.
Okay, have Bob get down.
Bob, get down.
Okay, get down.
Get down.
The rising.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, and we are rolling.
Thank you so much, all of us, for joining us. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Did you all have fun?
Oh, it was
Yeah,
great.
great time.
Great
Wonderful
time.
Will you
time.
come back? Thanks again. Until next time, keep talking.
Hey, wait a
Do
minute.
that again.
Where's Bob?
Bob never came up.
Bob, you never came
What are you sleeping back there?
Look at me and I'll cue you.
Okay. Yeah. You gotta cue me because I was waiting for my. Well, I expected to hear drums.
You gotta teach him
Poor
a few
Bob's
things.
down. He's got his head down. Like,
Okay.
Waiting for his
I was waiting for
close-up.
my cue.
Okay, here we go.
Let's stay close.
Stay close.
Stay close, but don't hide behind her head. Okay.
Okay.
okay. So when you
Smile,
say,
everyone.
okay, everybody have fun, then we'll
Okay.
separate.
Okay.
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 Go.
Okay. Well, we hope you had as much fun as we did. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all.
Did we
Thank
have fun?
you.
Until
was
next
great.
time,
Good
keep
time.
talking.
Oh my God.
Ah.